Welcome, Romaine Sawyers. Thank you so much for joining us on the Integral Chat. It's really good to see you. I wanted to start with basically how you kind of rose up the ranks and your time at West Brom when you were a kid, because you're everything that the Integral Chat is about. You went up in the academy, but unfortunately you were released. I think you were about 21, which must have been a really tough time for you. So can you start by just telling us what it was like playing for your boyhood club as a boy, and then what it felt like being released at that age?
From a young age, I was always fortunate, should we say, because I joined the club at 7. Going through the ranks, it's not easy, should we say. Like, I've had players that I've played with at 7 that don't play football now. There's some that still play football now. So to do it for so long, so consistent, it was good. It's a testament to the people that I had around me, like my mother and stuff. Then growing up, it was always, I think, we're brats. Like, when you go away from school, 6 weeks holidays are, what did you come back and do? I was playing Man United or Chelsea or the X, Y, Z. So you're always a spoilt brat in school, always a popular kid, which was good. Obviously, it's good. Your friendship groups are a lot easier when you're the kid that plays football. So it was all exciting times. The only thing I missed out on is obviously summer tournaments with your friends where you've got trophies to show for it and whatnot, because you didn't really, when I was growing up, we didn't really have tournaments and stuff like that at West Brom. It was more just playing other teams for development, should we say, purposes rather than actual silverware. And as you get older and older, come into a youth team and stuff, that's when you really start understanding football, what it's about, being day to day, seeing the first team players around the training ground, which was good. We had a few. I've always spoke highly about Chris Brunt. He's the one for me, like midfielder, very technical technician that was always around the building, always approachable, which always makes it easier to fit in. You obviously train with the group. It's always a big thing when you're the one that, you were the first team today and stuff like that. And James Morrison, Chris Brunt, people like that made it a lot easier to get into the group. And as I got older, Steve Clark just said that you're at an age now where I'd have to be registered in the Premier League 25. Would they not, should we say, waste the space on a 21-year-old that comes through the academy that they have to wait to develop a bit more, or to play somebody that somebody that could potentially play in their first team next week if it was called upon. And he just said to me it was a time where I needed to go and prove him wrong, it was a mixed message. Obviously, he's taken me away from a club I've been at for 14 years, but at the same time is motivating me by using the words and the phrase of go and prove me wrong. At the time, it was very hard, like very, very hard. I've been there for so long, it's all I ever known. And that was, I think it didn't hit me until pre-season after, when I was going to Walsall's training ground rather than West Brom's. That's when reality really sunk in, and I said, okay, this isn't what I wanted to be, where I wanted to be. No disrespect to Walsall, because I had a great time there, but I've always grown up thinking I'm going to be playing next to Brunty or next to Mozza, or I want to play for West Brom, I want to be a local boy. It wasn't to be that way or that yet at that time. But it was a case where my mum just said it was sink or swim time. I could either stay at League One, or I could try and get back to the Championship or Premier League, wherever it may be. I've always had friends that have been quite supportive. And one friend in particular used to always say to me, Romaine, you're on loan from the Premier League, even though I'm permanent, just as in terms of a league. And that always resonated in my mind. And it was always motivation to say, okay, it's bigger than me at this point. I want to get there, but other people want me to get there. Other people want to see me succeed. So that's what really kept me focused, because there's a lot of players that haven't been able to bounce back, should we say, and their ability is not the reason. It's a mentality. But like I said, I was fortunate enough to have people around me that were really supportive and pushed me. They knew how to push the right buttons to get me going, and that all aligned with me going to Walsall, and Dean Smith was the same.
You're so fortunate to have that support network. I mean, you can have all that drive and motivation, but it really helps, doesn't it, to have people behind you pushing you on. So when you got that move to Brentford under Dean Smith, who's brilliant, isn't he? And what a team that was. I used to love going to Griffin Park, watching the football that
Yeah.
you guys played. It was amazing. What was that move like? Was it a big move for you at the time?
No, I think it was something that I was in my last year of my contract at Warsaw. I had chances to go in January, but it wasn't right. I didn't need to rush. I felt like I had a great service to League One, and it was almost like both myself and people and the industry wanted to see me at the next level. So it was, I don't think it was a time where it came too early. So maybe that's why it wasn't as big for me. Not as big in terms of I wanted to do it, but in terms of the step didn't feel as big until I got there and really hit. But yeah, it was good. It was easier because obviously Dean Smith, I've always been fond of him. He took me under my wing when at my lowest point, should we say. And he just always motivated me again. He knew the right things to say to get out of me.
Why were you at your lowest point?
I've never experienced it. From 7 till 14, every release and retain meeting, it's always been, you got another year, or at 12, you've got 4 years, or at 16, you've got 4 years. And it's always been positive. It's always been how great you are, Romaine, and how good you are. But then when Steve Clark hit me with that, it was like, okay, this is reality. It's something that I've never experienced. I've never been one like I was at West Brom and then I got released and then I went to Coventry and then I came back, and it's like there's players that I played with and then 3 years we don't see them and they developed a bit more and they've come back. So I've always been sugar-coated, should we say, with how great you are and how good you are and you're going to be this and that. So at 21, when he told me that, it was like, wow. But I think Dean Smith, now looking back, was the perfect manager. In terms of the way he is as a people person, he cares about you as a person first. Naturally, you want to work for him. So it was a type of, the academy environment at West Brom's quite family orientated, very like all the staff have been there since I was a young boy. Everybody would rally together and tell you how great you are, personal relationships, handshakes, this and that. Like, it was very good. And then there's been League One or League Two teams that could have been a bit more tough, should we say, whereas Dean Smith wasn't. He was quite in touch with the personal side of it, and I think that's his greatest man-management attribute. And naturally, you can see players that he's gone on to work with. Obviously, Grealish now being a £100 million player that he is, you could see that he really excelled under Dean Smith, because I'm sure he would have took Jack under his wing and said, Jack, you're a great player, but I want you as a person to be right. If you're good as a person, you can be a good player. And I think that was perfect for me at that stage.
So obviously after you played at Brentford, you then got your dream move, didn't you? I mean, for you to sort of, you did prove him wrong in the end, didn't you, Steve Clark? You definitely did that. And you went back to West Brom, which must have been a dream come true. How did that feel?
Surreal. Still, it's funny that even like after a year of me being there and stuff, sometimes I drive to the training ground and don't realize that, you actually are playing in the first team here. Like I said, I remember doing it as a kid and always wanting to be on pitch 1 and pitch 2, but now I'm just strolling onto pitch 1 and pitch 2. It's not, you're here this week and then next week you might be back on pitch 4. Like, this is your pitch, your dressing room. The canteen staff are still the same, the infrastructure is still the same, the physio department is still the same. But it's like, I'm not 16-year-old Romaine or 17-year-old Romaine who has to sugarcoat what he says or act extra politely or not go through this door or that door or wait for this person to leave the canteen before. And I'm not cleaning boots, I'm not doing jobs. It was just amazing. And I think it was a real testament to how far I came. And I think that was the first realization where I thought, okay, like, you've actually done what you've planned to do. Like, everybody wants to be a professional footballer, but we've got dreams within, and playing for West Brom's first team was always a dream of mine. So as much as I love my time at Walsall and I love my time at Brentford, like, playing for West Brom was the pinnacle for me.
And obviously I've got a soft spot for Slaven Bilic, being a West Ham fan. So I absolutely love him. Tell me what it was like working with him for that especially that championship season when you guys absolutely smashed, didn't you?
Yeah, the best. Just the best human. Not even managers, best human. Whatever you need to speak about, I've had conversations with him about politics, about trainers, about music, and then at the end about football. Even to this day, we still talk, and quite often on WhatsApp. Even though he's in China, when I got injured, text me, don't keep your head up, X, Y, and Z. Like, we've just got a great relationship. To be fair, I've been fortunate. All the managers that I've worked under, I've still kept a relationship with. But Slav, just like I said, I think the beard and the mean mugging look and stuff like that is complete opposite. He's got that side to him, but not many people get him there, because it takes a lot to get him there. And if he's got you there, it's more because he cares rather than he needs to be there. He pushed me and pushed me. He would tell me how great I am, but he would always tell me how bad I was and tell me the bad parts and what I need to improve. And at 17, 18, I may not have accepted it as well as I did at an older age, because you realise that people are doing that because they're believing you. And he did massively. He told me from a week after him joining the club that he was going to make me a Premier League player because he felt like I needed to be there, and he did it ultimately. So I'll thank him forever.
That must have made you feel 10 foot tall to hear something like that from a man like Slaven Bilic. And obviously you did do that. That championship season was amazing. You had a really good season as well, didn't you? I think you had a 90% pass completion success rate, which is tremendous. And the football that West Brom played that season was great. How did it feel then to cross the line and think to yourself, not only are you a Premier League player, but you're a Premier League player with the love of your life, which was West Brom?
In the end, it was stressful. We made hard work of it. I think up until January, we were near enough unbeaten. We lost our first game in January, which was great. And you think everything's going well, then obviously the world was affected by COVID, and that's not just an our problem. The whole world was affected, which is natural. We were quite fortunate with the job that we're in. That it was easy, should we say, to manage mentally, which was good. But then after the COVID break, we made it as hard as we can. Obviously, with Brentford being my former club and them chasing it, made it a bit more harder because I wanted the boys to do well, but at the same time, not at my expense. So if Leeds fell out, it would have been perfect, us and Brentford going up, but it wasn't to be. But we crawled over the line in the end. I think it's tarnished it a little bit. I think we put ourselves in a position to be bad, should we say, for the last 9 games. And I think people fail to realise that because of how hard we made the last 9 games, they're forgetting the rest of them. We played 30 plus games at a top level is the reason why we got up, not because Brentford messed up after 7, 8 games. And I think that kind of took the gloss off it a little bit. We obviously didn't have fans there, which wasn't great because everybody knows from the Championship, especially, if you want to get promoted, you'd want to do it at Wembley if you could. If not, with your fans at home would have been perfect for us. There's a bit of a panic up at the final whistle because we drew 2-2. We had to wait for Barnsley result. They did us a favour, which is great. But we got over the line. Like I said, it was amazing, and even more so to do with my club. I FaceTimed my boys on the pitch, my mum, family, and it's just like, it was just a surreal moment I had to share with the people that I remember coming to watch me at Port Vale away and like Chesterfield away and stuff like that.
Yeah. So then walking out as a Premier League player must have felt even more surreal. When did it kind of sink in that you were there?
I think it's crazy. I think it sinks in more off the pitch and on the pitch. I think when we're on the pitch, we've got a job to do. It's 11v11. With the subs, obviously, the manager set us out to do, and I'm there focused. I think the only thing I've missed out on is the crowds. Obviously, you play at the big grounds and stuff like that, but Anfield under the lights or a full Anfield, I'm sure, would be a lot better than an Anfield empty. We had a few fans for that game in particular, but the real Premier League buzz and stadiums and stuff like that wasn't there. But the level of play and the quality of players and tactical and stuff was all there, all amazing. It was all a test. It was like winning a competition as a little kid to play against these people that you watch every day on Match of the Day. And even though you're competing with them, it's still like you respect Kevin De Bruyne as the best in the world, and that's all the same. So it was amazing. And like I said, to do it with my favourite badge on my chest was even better. better for me, better for my family. I think at that time of year, it's like it gives mom an extra few steps to walk around on the chest. Like, my son's a Premier League player, and I've always said it's like I'm a son of a Premier League mother rather than a Premier League player. Like, I owe it all to her. It's all about what she's done and her sacrifices. Now, it's just happy that before I've had to retire, I've been able to repay it a little bit, should we say, with that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And unfortunately, it didn't go as you would want for Slaven as well. We all know that he left his position. Sam Allardyce came in, and I could see that you stopped playing around the January time. Why was that? Were you injured, or were you just not fancied by Big Sam?
So a lot of people have the perception of Big Sam, and I don't think the perception's all the way right. I think he's a good guy, honest guy. He just gives it you black and white. There's no cutting corners or anything. And whenever anybody asked me about that, it was a simple case of I wouldn't sign for a Big Sam team, and Big Sam wouldn't sign a Romaine Sawyers. And it just happened that we aligned at the club together. I don't have no hard feelings about it. I understand it. If I was 18, I may have thrown my toys out of the pram. But like I said, I wouldn't sign for a Big Sam team, and Big Sam wouldn't want to sign me. So it was a case where when he came in after January, he got his recruits in, should we say. Before that, he was working with Slav's players, Slav's philosophy, Slav's style, and then Big Sam's style just doesn't suit me. Would I have liked to continue playing? Of course, it's a Premier League. Everybody wants to play as many games as they can, but I understand exactly why I wasn't required for Big Sam.
That's a really mature and great way of looking at it, and a positive way of looking at it. I know a lot of players who wouldn't have responded in that way, but yeah, good on you. And that was also a really difficult month. I wanted to bring up something that happened to you that is, it's really indescribable, because for people on the outside looking in, obviously I can't understand exactly how it felt for you when it happened, but I've had my own issues on social media with trolls and things like that. But you were racially abused online.
Yeah.
And the guy who did it has since been, he's been prosecuted and he's been sentenced to prison, which the first time I think that's ever happened. So take me back to when it happened, and I want to talk about it really, because I want people to understand why it's so important that we prosecute, and how it affects people when you see things like that on your phone or on your computer, wherever it is, how it makes you feel.
Well, obviously the first thing, we lost the game, and every sportsman or anybody that competes, losing's bad enough. You try and do things like what people do to pass times, whether it's playing video games, social media, friends, X, Y, and Z. It was obviously a late night game. I struggle to sleep after games. I'm up on my phone scrolling as you do. Click on your DMs, click on requests. I'm bantering with my friends in DMs, but you see requests, you click just to see. There's sometimes positive messages, sometimes negative, like you take it both ways. But then to see somebody, should we say, bring race into something that you just doing a job, it was distasteful. I screenshotted it. I just sent it to the head of media at West Brom, because obviously around that time there was a lot of players being racially abused, and it almost became a trend. The tolerance of everybody's level because of COVID was lower. Everybody was angry at the world, and taking out on wherever they needed or felt like they needed to. Not to make it sound acceptable, but that's probably the time we were living in at that moment. But it's not to say that you can't affect somebody. The same way we lost that game affected his mood, a racial comment's going to affect me even more. One thing, I didn't choose to lose 5-0. We didn't choose. We went out to perform. We just chose not to. But to attack somebody's race, it's a bit insensitive, and it shows more about the person than myself as an individual. Like I've always relayed back to, my support team's always been amazing. It was great from the club, but my family, my infrastructure from my day-to-day life was always been good, so it was easier to deal with. I haven't been on social media a lot since, to be honest, and anytime I've spoke about it, it's like it just takes you back to a place where it's not cool. You don't want to remember it, but I know it's bigger than me. I had to continue to push and fight for it because it wasn't right. Like you said, he was the first person to be prosecuted from it, which is a great step in the right direction. I would never be able to fix it on my own, or we wouldn't be able to fix it on our own. Everybody needs to be on board. That's black, white, Asian, wherever you're from in the world. Like, it's not just a black thing or an Asian thing. Like, white need to be involved, Asian needs to be involved, everybody needs to be involved and work in the right direction. I think this is one step that gives you hope. I think before, a lot of players wouldn't have stepped forward because they've said, whether it's kick it out or their club, or they don't feel like they've got the support. I feel like that showed a real statement from everybody that's trying to be involved, that, okay, this is how we're going to combat it. Will it stop tomorrow? No. Will it stop in a week? Probably not. A year, if not a decade. But we've got to keep doing what we need to do between now and then to ensure that the right message is pushed. And I think that's what made me keep going and keep probing with it. Mentally, it was tough because there was times where you don't get answers, or you don't feel like anything's happening because it goes quiet a little bit, or another player's abuse or X, Y, and Z. You got to go court once, twice. He's appealing, but you just got to not give up and show weakness. If you did that, then it's almost like the trolls, like you said, win. And I think a lot of trolling online is very common now. I think social media is great, gives you access. I remember if I was a kid and I got to, say, message Chris Brunt as a 10-year-old, it would have been amazing for me. So there is a lot of positives for it, but with all the positives, there's going to be some negatives. We can't let the negatives eclipse the positives, but we also can't let them be in the shadow where people aren't highlighting them. And I think that's where people really need to step out. And as much as you would post your friend's clothing line, or your friend megging somebody, or flicking it over somebody's head and scoring in the top corner, you have to also highlight the negatives. And I think that's how we all can drive and make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what that guy said was absolutely disgusting, unforgivable as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, I think if you're doing something out of the ordinary, or something that someone else wants to do, they're going to use whatever they feel is your, I don't know, like me being a woman in football, that it's kind of a weakness that they can sort of pinpoint.
Yeah,
100%. They're going to use that. But if it's the same for me, I would fight back just like you did, not just for me, but also for the people coming up behind me.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, even if it won't deter everybody, but it might deter that one person who thinks, you know, even if they're not going to change the way they think about people, it might make them stop doing it. And that really is what we want to do first and foremost, before you educate.
Yes.
Like that.
That was my first port of call when West Brom came to me. The first thing I said, I'd love to sit in front of him and just say, explain, like, tell me your timeline, how you got to make you think send that. And then when you sent it, you had time to potentially go back and delete. Where was your head at, really? What made you think that was okay to do? And it would be interesting. I still would like to have that conversation with, if not him or a troll, just period of troll that goes online and thinks that that's okay. I think there's education from not two sides, their side. They need to explain why, because then they can get the help. If we don't know the direction they're going or where it came from, then we've got no chance. But I think education is a massive thing, and it's more, I'm not talking education in terms of history of words that you're using. That's important also, but just the personal relation. Like, you tell me what he did to you and I'll tell you what he did to me. And then like you said, it might not affect 50,000 people, but if I affect one, that's great. If I stop one doing it, that's great. And then the domino effect and then it calculates. And before you know it, there's an accumulation of people that are having these, should we say, awkward conversations that need to be had. And then I think that's how we can move forward.
The funny thing is, a lot of the time, if you confront these trolls, they go, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to say it. Oh, I'm really sorry. Oh, I didn't mean it." And it's just like, "Oh, you're pathetic, honestly. You really are." And a lot of the time, they just want to hurt you in the only way they can and know how. So some people are going to continue, but yeah, no, it's brilliant that you took it to the furthest that you could, and hopefully there will be change in the future. Right, let's talk a bit about where you are now. You're at Stoke City. It's a great club. I've worked there a few times. some great people there. How is it going? It's been a bit kind of stop-start, hasn't it? You've had an injury as well. Has it been a frustrating season?
It's been an enjoyable, first and foremost. From the back end of last season, like we said, I didn't play a lot of games. So just to know that from Monday to Friday, I'm training with an actual chance of getting in a team and getting in a squad and stuff like that. It got to a point at West Brom where I knew regardless what I was to do Monday or Friday, I'm just not going to be involved. So it was enjoyable to get that feeling back, that buzz back, that love back for the game, that you don't necessarily lose, but you lose a little bit of motivation, which is natural. But to be fair to Nick Davis, who's at West Ham now, actually, as a fitness coach, and Reese, Matt, a couple of the other staff at West Brom, they really pushed me. Even Nick, I speak to Nick at least once a week or fortnight just to keep pushing and motivating, because you never know what's around the corner, and I had to stay ready for an opportunity like Stoke. Obviously, Dean Holden's one of the assistant coaches at Stoke, who was obviously a young boy when he was at Walsall. So it made it easy. I knew the environment I was going into was going to be good, because it's a testament to Dean accepting his role there. And I think when I met the gaffer there, the assistant, the technical director, was all great. They aligned with what I wanted to align. Everybody wants to get to the Premier League. Everybody wants a step in the right direction. I think Stoke are a club that are a Premier League club in the Championship. The infrastructure, the facilities, the stadium, the fans, everything says Premier League, but it hasn't quite worked for them over the last few years. It's been quite an enjoyable ground for me to go to be fair. So it was a bit of a easy step. A lot of the fans were already aware of me. It was easy. It makes it a lot easier when you've got fans before you get there, if that makes sense. They've seen you play and whatnot. The players, all of them are experienced players. I've played against most of them, if not all of them before. So again, you know who you're playing with. I knew Jack Bonham, Danny Bath, Alfie before I got there. It always made it easier. The group's great from top to bottom. They've got experience. Stephen Fletcher, Joe Allen, who have gone and played internationally at the highest level for years, to young boys like Sam Surridge or Ben Wilmot that are coming up in the game, but have still got relatively a lot of experience at this level. So it's great that I'm now deemed one of the senior pros. I've been them, and now I'm on the other end. So it's good that I can play football. They want to play football the right way. We're in and around the playoffs, which is great. We've got a chance to get in the top 6. So you're fighting for something. Not that everybody's fighting something, but it's better than fighting around 13th and 14th. Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier to, should we say, wake up and do the best job in the world. But like I said, I've had an injury, my first one since 18. I've never really missed a game. I've been quite robust, which has been fortunate. But I understand everybody has a time like this in their career. I've just been spoiled that I've never had it until I'm 30. It's been hard at first. It was really, really tough getting in earlier than the boys and seeing them go out to train and laughing and joking and enjoying. You want to be involved in it. It was even harder because I didn't feel pain. I feel pain free. I feel like I can move, but I know there's holes in my quad and things need to be done and stuff. But the rehab's been great. The physio department, great. We've got a real relationship now, especially since I've been injured, which is good. They got me in the gym that I've never done in my career. So it shows a testament to where we're at, where they're at. But yeah, like I've got a smile on my face again, so it's good. Hopefully it won't be too long. Hopefully we're still in and around it. Hopefully I've got something to fight for when I get back.
Yeah. Well, to prolong your career, you're going to have to do things you've never done before. So
exactly. Yeah.
So do you think you'll get back there to the Premier League, whether it's with Stoke City or any other team?
I've got the ambition to, and I think it starts with that. I've got to make sure I do everything in my hands. I can control the controllables. If I'm not good enough for a Premier League manager or a promoted team or whatnot, so be it. But I've just got to make sure I do what I do on my end and what I can control. Once you've had a taste of something and you've enjoyed it, you always want to do it again. So I'd be lying if I said I'm just happy to see out the rest of my career as a Championship player or lower down the leagues. But it's something that I've got at the back of my mind. I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't. I'd be lying if I sat here and said I'd be devastated if I don't. I'd be perfectly fine if I retired tomorrow. I've achieved everything I've wanted to achieve. I know I've got a proud family behind me. I think I've done my services to a few great clubs that I feel like I'll always have a good rapport with. I'll always be able to go back to watch games free of charge, hopefully. So yeah, it's great. And obviously seeing players that I've previously played with achieve great things is always satisfying for me. So that's good.
Yeah, or maybe you could have a career in the media. Who knows?
No,
I don't
know.
You want to stay in football?
I've thought about media, but it's I don't know which direction. Whether I'd want to do Clinton Morrison with my earphones on up and down, or suit up like Gary and Jamie or whatnot. But I think when you've got a passion for football, you always want to stay in it at some capacity, and I share that same capacity. I've got to start thinking about it now more than ever. Which is great. It's not
just about having money, when you retire. It's about still having a passion for something, isn't it?
I need to wake up and have a purpose. I've obviously got children, which is a great purpose, but I mean, for an individual, like I'll always be super dad, or I'll always be a superhero to my daughters. So that's fine. But just like you said, for your own purpose and own passion, that I don't end up going crazy.
I'm sure your mum wouldn't let you sit on your ass anyway. From what I've heard about her, I mean, she sounds like some woman. If I can just sort of read out, she's a trustee for Continental Star, which is a local team where you come from in the West Midlands. She's a qualified coach, I think, as well. I don't know if she's managed a team before. She was a Football's Blacklist winner for her voluntary work for grassroots and community sports. I mean, that is some role model. So you've obviously seen firsthand that women are pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It must have been brilliant to grow up with someone like her. And I think you have sort of taken that mantle as well, because you do a lot of community projects and things like that. I know you feel that it's important to give back, but tell me why you feel that it's important to really sort of get stuck in and work from the ground up.
I just always got to remember where I come from. And I swear my mom's always said to me from the jump, even now when I'm playing, she texts me and says, good luck today, play park football. That's all I've known. I've played in the park with my boys in the inner city. And like I said earlier, if a local football player came to my park or my school or X, Y, and Z, it would focus me as a 10-year-old, 100%. You listen to teachers and kids, but any West Brom fan would prefer a West Brom player to come into, or a Stoke player or a local player from their club to come into the community. And I think we've got a platform that we've got to use to echo what I said earlier. It's like we can use it in such a positive manner. And I think it doesn't take a lot. I'm not saying everybody has to do it. Some people have the should we say, the knack of doing it, or the hunger to do it. I'm one of them people.
And like the time.
Yeah, of course. We're very fortunate in terms of time in our job, which is great. But my mom showed me the mantle, and I've just got to keep doing it. She's been my superhero, my role model throughout my whole life, which has been great. Like you said, I've had it firsthand, and I think a woman has to think as a very dangerous person. And I think I've had that, and should use it in a great manner. And I'm happy to keep that legacy going. I think a lot of players when they retire are just a footballer, but you can be more than a footballer if you've done, like my career, I haven't had 10 years at the Premier League, but I'm sure I've touched a lot of kids' hearts, and I've done a lot of community work where people will remember it, which is good. And you have to be more than just one thing, should we say.
No, absolutely. Well, I wish you good luck with all the work in the community and with your career. Hopefully I'll see you back in the Premier League sometime soon, Romaine. Yeah. It's just been so great to talk to you. Thank you for joining the Integral Chat.
No worries. Take care. Good speaking.
You too.